Are we on? Are we on? We should be on. We should be on. Let me check this right here. Yep, cool, cool, cool. We totally have that on right now. And let's see this right now. Let's see it. Let me give a nice little call out to the crew. All right, is live. And then we can change the title on this one. Let's hold on just a sec. Let's switch the channel real quick. Back to JPS delivers. Let's see this. Hold on just a sec. We'll change it back. It's supposed to be. Let's see this real quick. Hopefully it's not glitching out or anything like that. But let's go ahead. Why is Adobe Cloud doing that? You son bitch. Alright, we are on air. We should be good to go. Alright, so let's take a gander at this. Alright, fellas. So it is week 7. I know it says week 6, but we'll correct that in a sec. Hopefully, y'all are having a good, like start of the second half of your week. Or actually, like, I would have to say more so like the end of your 4/5 part of the week, 80% of the week done so far before the weekend. Let's take a gander at this real quick. We're going to look at the matchups for this week in Goon Squad. Um, it looks pretty good. I mean, we have two top teams right here because, like I said before, it's always going to show my matchup first. So we got Tony Soprano's Gabagool. That's my team, the home team, here against Colorado Cream Pies. Cooper's going to have to fix his bye weeks and stuff like that, but we'll see who he can put in. Besides that, we can see full box score. We don't have to see an overview. Fuck this. We can do a full box score, right? No. Overview looks way better. Jesus. Alrighty. So here we go. We got my team, Tony Soprano's Gabagool, against Colorado Cream Pies. We got Lamar Jackson versus Deshaun Watson. Lamar Jackson, we saw what the dude did last week. Without throwing a passing touchdown and without getting to 300 yards passing, dude still had 30 fantasy points. It's insane. He had 120 something yard, or maybe 150 yards running. Just absolutely insane. Had a rushing touchdown as well. The guy's just showing a great floor at quarterback, and he's a guy that if you have him in your league, you're more than thrilled because you drafted him probably around the 9th or 10th round. At the earliest, maybe the 8th round. I don't know if you just wanted to do that reach, but I mean, hey, even if you reached in the 8th round, you still got a quality quarterback. It's going to be a top 5 quarterback the rest of the season. Aaron Jones, we'll have to see what happens with Jamal Williams. Jamal Williams definitely looked really, really impressive, and Matt LaFleur is still just seems to be playing that man quite a bit when he is healthy. As you can tell right away, bounce right back after the concussion and getting out last week. Tevin Coleman, they're going to have a positive game script against Washington. Looks good to me. Coob, thank you again for dropping him. Devontae Adams, I have him in there right now. I got wide receiver trouble right now. I could probably trade one of my running backs for, because, I mean, these are my 4 running backs right here without Nick Chubb. He's on bye this week. And then, Eckler, probably keep him because no one's going to really want him all too much. But Devontae Adams dealing with the turf toe. They're not going to play him until he's healthy. They don't need to play him until he's healthy. They're 5-1. Josh Gordon, same thing with the Patriots. They don't need to play him until he's healthy. You're looking at an undefeated team, 5-1 teams. No reason to put those guys out there before and risk injury. Darren Waller, it's going to be a top 5 tight end. I think he's going to have a volume of like a top 2, top 3 tight end rest of the season. Chris Carson against Baltimore. Baltimore has not looked impressive on defense. They've just played the Bengals, so of course they're going to look good against the Bengals anyways. And still, they didn't cover the spread at home, I believe, against the Bengals. I believe that's what it was. It didn't cover the spread against the Bengals, so Lamar Jackson is definitely in a good spot. I like that little stack I just did without even realizing it because I just have to play those players as Lamar playing like a negative game or a positive game script for himself, having to play catch up, probably run for another 100 yards this game. against Seattle and Chris Carson running the ball, getting at least 20 rushes, at least 25 touches. It seems like huge bell cow back. I was scared of Rashard Penny coming back and doing something, but no. Chris Carson rarely fumbled before. Doesn't seem to be having problems now, and he's back on track as like a top 10 running back the rest of the season. Austin Eckler, I believe that with Maurice Pouncey or Mo Pouncey getting out, it's going to affect Melvin Gordon more than Austin Eckler. Eckler's going to get a lot of passing work. Packers defense facing Oakland. If anything that would scare me is Josh Jacobs finds himself with a 100-yard game, a touchdown or two. But overall, I think Derek Carr. Sorry, Derek Carr. Get them mixed up. Is going to probably throw at least a pick or two in this game. Matt Bryant, still, I mean, it was a heartbreaker to see him miss that field goal because Matt Bryant's a kicker in a lot of leagues of mine. It's like, it's a good offense. They're going to be down the field a lot. Even though they don't seem to fucking get any points and move down the field for yards until they're down by 20 fucking points in a game. Whatever, though. Matt Bryant's going to stick with him. It's unfortunate because I had Matt Ryan in daily fantasy lineups. And if Matt Bryant would have made that field goal, would have made an extra 10 or 20 bucks. Well, that would have been nice. Deshaun Watson plays in Indy. Indy's defense looks really good, but Deshaun Watson looks like an MVP, so that balances out pretty much. Christian McCaffrey, I'm hitting him. I'm actually playing teams in a couple leagues, including this one with Cooper's team, that had McCaffrey on bye, and that's a nice feeling not having to face that. David Montgomery against New Orleans. That's going to be a really tough matchup for that running back. Chicago hasn't been able to do shit this season against worse rushing defenses than we saw. I mean, they just like pretty much what people were thinking with the usage that Fournette was getting. New Orleans still shut him down for a guy who's getting 25 to 30 touches a game almost. Mike Evans is on bye. It's just sad because I have Chris Godwin, and that's one time I've been sad about having Chris Godwin this season. Cooper Kupp is in a great matchup. Jared Cook could find himself getting more targets this week with Chicago trying their best to guard Mike Thomas. At least he is in the slot, and I have to say Mike Thomas in the slot is better than being on the outside against Chicago. Sammy Watkins still dealing with injury. Believe he's out this week. Is that correct? Yeah, he's out this week. That's against Denver. They don't need him. I just don't think they do. Emmanuel Sanders, there's a chance he's not going to be playing against KC, but it doesn't look like there's any injury designation for him right there. Patriots defense, that team is averaging 22 points per game. That team is basically the Patriots have been the best value out of most of anything this season, and their defense is pretty insane when they're averaging 22.7 points per game. That puts them up there like at top 2 at running back. I mean, like right behind Christian McCaffrey for most fantasy points for running backs this season. That's insane. That's insane. And you draft running backs as the top, 5 through like 8 picks until you finally think that you're going to have an opportunity cost to get a wide receiver in the draft. Tai Long, kicking for the Chargers against Tennessee. Here we go. We got Zaris' team up against Barbecue Sauce. Bobby's team with Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson's been balling. I think Russell Wilson is officially my favorite quarterback in the NFL. He's just an absolute beast. Zeke Elliott is going to be in your lineup every week. Sony Michel against New York. If CJ Mosley is out, I could see Sony Michel get at least 20 touches. So you might as well just keep him in your spot right there. Kenny Galladay against Minnesota. I mean, I still think that, we saw Kenny Galladay have a really good game even against Green Bay, and Green Bay has done well against wide receivers. I mean, until the last 2 weeks. Tyler Boyd against Jacksonville. We now know, Tyler Boyd can definitely exploit the slot. If AJ Green is back, it will give more attention away from Tyler Boyd. So, if anything, and that Jacksonville secondary does not look the same without Jalen Ramsey out. And now Jalen Ramsey is going to the Rams. We've got Austin Hooper, number 1 tight end of fantasy. Beautiful week. He was the chalk at DFS, and he ate it all up. Just made that screechy noise across the fucking chalkboard. You got Keenan Allen against Tennessee. I think he's in a good spot. Allen Robinson against New Orleans. I do think Allen Robinson is in a tough spot this week. He's going to get shadow coverage from Marshon Lattimore, who people were saying Marshon Lattimore had a rough first couple weeks, And now the guys look stellar. So I would say if you have anybody, I know you're saying Hunter Henry, put Hunter Henry in. Hunter Henry is going to win people fantasy leagues this year. If he stays healthy, which knock on wood, Hunter Henry stays healthy. I'm in another league. Very glad I had him in an IR spot, and he's going to be a guy that I think wins people leagues. Did you know that he had more fantasy points than like 95% of tight ends this season in just 2 fucking weeks of play? That's insane. That should tell you something that Philip Rivers is definitely going to be utilizing him just like the Antonio Gates connection. 49ers defense, playing Washington, beautiful. 49ers defense is average 17.8 points. That's another one as well that would be there in the upper echelon of running backs. And the fact that you're getting now the 49ers, I believe, are the Patriots of the NFC. They have a great defense right now. Their defense is doing wonderful, picking the slack up, and their offense has kind of been, middle of the road mediocre. Josh Lambo, gig 'em, baby. I love Jacksonville players this week against the Bengals. Next up, 3-3 against a 2-4 Stevens team. Stevens team has slid quite a bit, and he's going to be hitting a Denton Degens team with Chandler's squad. Jacoby Brissett in a pretty good spot against Houston. They might have to resort a little bit to the passing game. T.Y. Hilton's there, and you can't help but feel good about T.Y. Hilton against the Texans. Against the Texans, always beats him. Melvin Gordon against Tennessee. That's a tough matchup right there, that offensive line, but you need to start him. I don't know what the other people you have on your bench, but if you have Royce Freeman playing, I would switch Royce Freeman with either Josh Jacobs or Melvin Gordon because he will be playing on Thursday. I always harp on this. If you want to have good roster construction for season-long leagues, we always talk about DFS roster construction, but if you want season-long roster construction, always put your earlier game players in the solidified spot. If you're confident those players will be starting for you, like such a Patrick Mahomes, obviously in a awarded quarterback league, going to be playing for you. But if you have a Tyreek Hill and stuff, or even if you're playing McCole Hardman, put that guy in the wide receiver slot, those first 4 slots at running back and wide receiver, because if there is injury news that happens, Melvin Gordon tweaks an ankle in practice, Josh Jacobs, God forbid, but I'm just saying, just in case you want to be prepared for it and you don't want a flex spot eaten up to where you can utilize more of your positions. Just more opportunity costs with setting your roster to where you have the Thursday night game players that you for sure want to play for the week in those first 4 slots. Josh Jacobs, like I said, could get 100 yards and a touchdown this week. Tyreek Hill, he's going to be trying to get that shadow coverage against Chris Harris, and I still think Tyreek Hill is still going to show like he did last week, just an impressive player. Courtland Sutton's in a good spot. Travis Kelce is in a good spot. I think Kelce is bound for that 100+ yard game with a touchdown. Haven't really seen. He's still the third best tight end in fantasy. That just shows how much, if you can get Travis Kelce in other leagues and someone's a little down on him, you should definitely trade for him because he's still on pace, record-setting pace for yardage as a tight end. The touchdowns are going to come. Matt Breida against Washington. Yeah, that's just a pretty good matchup. You need to have him in your lineup right there. Bears defense against New Orleans should be interesting. If you're playing at home, New Orleans on the road should be a really good game. I think it's going to be a really low scoring game again for Chicago and New Orleans. A New Orleans team that had a low scoring game going in there, an impressive win, and they've been impressive getting a win right there against Jacksonville last week in Week 6. Justin Tucker, best kicker in football right now, fantasy. Jared Goff, if there's a bounce back spot, there is a bounce back spot. This is it. This is Atlanta. Atlanta's a get right team to where if you are struggling, you will get right against Atlanta. Atlanta's defense is terrible. Daniel Williams, Denver's been better actually on defense in the past couple of weeks, so maybe they have to resort to passing with him, but he's still getting snaps taken away from him by Darrell Williams. Kenyon Drake against Buffalo. God, just Miami players against Buffalo sounds terrible this week. Buffalo has a 17-point spread right now opening up, and I think they will cover that even. Buffalo's going to absolutely shit on this team. They might shut it out. They might shut Miami out. DeAndre Hopkins still waiting on that big bounce back game by Hopkins. Well, but you have to. Julio Jones. It seemed really interesting. You have to play the guy. It looked like he was in a bounce back spot as well for a big game. He did have a good game last week, 100 plus yards, and I think like 6 or 7 catches at least. But he will be getting that Jalen Ramsey shadow coverage. So that should be a really interesting, just play. Maybe Jalen Ramsey's rusty, and then if anybody's gonna, if any top wide receiver is gonna take advantage of Jalen Ramsey's always done well against Hopkins. Still think Julio Jones is the best wide receiver in football. Julio Jones can take advantage of that. Tyler Eifert, I feel bad that he's in your lineup. Amari Cooper dealing with the quad issue, but it's a great matchup if he's playing Carlos Hyde against Indianapolis. Indianapolis has a really underrated defense, but Carlos Hyde got a lot of usage, 26 touches last week. If that's the case, you can mark him up as a top 30 running back for the week easily. And the fact that we have 2 flex spots, there you go, fits perfectly. Chargers defense against Tennessee. I like it better if Mariota's starting, but it's the same reason why Mariota is not starting is why I liked it better. Mariota's just been terrible. Ryan Tannehill, gigging baby. Maybe he has a decent game against these Chargers because the Chargers defense doesn't look too good. Zane Gonzalez seems like with this good offense of Kingsbury, and it is a good offense, it's shown like. It just doesn't, they just keep on kicking field goals. So all to you. Aaron Rodgers against Oakland. It's a good spot. Oakland is a better rush defense. So if, Jones and Williams get shut down, you could expect Aaron Rodgers to have to resort to passing the ball more. Kamara is questionable against Chicago. Gonna have to start him. James White, I think it is a good matchup right there with the Jets. I think it's going to be a competitive game. Sam Darnold and the Jets looked way better last week. Will Fuller against Indianapolis. I'm sorry, Coob. You had that. You had that. You had the man do 54 points or like 49 in non PPR on your bench, and then you play him and he drops 3 touchdowns throughout the game. It sucked. I have him in my lineup too. I did have Deshaun Watson. Imagine that. That'd be 36 more fantasy points in a 6-point touchdown passing league. It was, just sucked to watch. But Tyrell Williams, we'll see if he comes back against Green Bay. Delaney Walker against the Chargers. I think Tannehill really helps quite a bit, and the Chargers have not been good against tight ends this season. Tight end has been so slim. Like I said, Hunter Henry's outscored 95% of tight ends in just 2 weeks of play. That's how good that guy is if he stays healthy. Brandon Cooks against Atlanta. I think Brandon Cooks could have a big game. Vikings or John Brown against Miami. If we can mention that, John Brown could be your top scoring player for the week. The guy, him and Josh Allen, if they can connect on one big play, you already have yourself like 15 fantasy points or something like that, because he's at least going to get like 4 or 5 catches as well, and he's such a deep threat. They got good chemistry, those two, and they need to get even a little bit better. And if they can get on the same page, John Brown and Josh Allen, you look at their upcoming schedule 4 or 5 weeks from now, it looks amazing. I mean, Miami twice. You play Philly. I believe you play the Cardinals. I believe so, but we'll have to see. Vikings defense, they're still playing at a dome even though they're away. I still like it. Mason Crosby, you know, it's a high scoring offense. You might as well have a good kicker with it. Pat Mahomes with Max's team. Um, I had to look at the matchups, but this does give me the idea of maybe the juicy matchup of the week. Pat Mahomes, or should I say Patty Mahomes, for the UK man over there, Max. Leonard Fournette and Pat Mahomes, that could be the 2 best positional players of the week for you. I mean, I think Leonard Fournette, I will say, Leonard Fournette will be the highest scoring running back this week. He is going to shit on the Bengals. The guy's getting a ton of touches, and they just had a tough matches against New Orleans, and he still had over 100 all-purpose yards. He should have a couple touchdowns as well. Expect like 25 fantasy points at least from Leonard Fournette this week. It's my stamp of approval right there. Frank Gore plays Miami. It's kind of a revenge spot for Frank Gore, and they're going to be having positive game script, just shitting on that team. Auden Tate against Jacksonville. Auden Tate's looked really impressive. He's a less athletic version of AJ Green because he's making sick catches in traffic. DJ Chark, Baby Chark is just getting shit done. And last week was expected. Like I said, Marshawn Lattimore's played really well lately. DJ Chark should have a great bounce back spot. George Kittle should have a great spot in this one. Joe Mixon against Jacksonville should be interesting, but he's just not getting utilized well. But the way you draft him, you need to have him in that spot. Marvin Jones against Minneapolis. against this team. So they're playing at home as well. Chiefs defense against Denver. I did pick them up in another league, so I do like their ability to get pressure on Joe Flacco this week. And then Will Lutz is a great kicker. We got Pork Chop Express against Will's team. You got Justin and Will facing each other. Dak Prescott against Philly. It's a great spot for a quarterback. David Johnson against New York. Another great spot for a good player, or a great player, I think. I love David Johnson. Devontae Freeman against LA. They ran the ball better last week. Atlanta did. And Arizona is a pretty underrated rush defense. So it's a good sign right there because he's still 16th, position rank. Especially where you draft him, like probably most likely the third round. I think by looking at this team, or maybe the second round, he's still producing for you. It's a higher floor, but just not as much upside I'm seeing. But still a good spot, I think, against the LA Rams. Julian Edelman is going to have a great game against the New York Jets. Just Josh Gordon's down. Julian Edelman should get at least 15 targets. Calvin Ridley is in a good spot, especially if Julio finds himself shut down this week. Empty at the tight end should be interesting to see. That's what I was like last week with the bye. Philip Lindsay against KC again. Move Philip Lindsay at one of the top two running back spots. Michael Gallup's in a great spot. I think Will is not projected as much as Justin this week, but I think that Will think about it. He puts in 12 more points. This is the juicy matchup of the week. This is what I'm saying. Juicy matchup of the week. Justin and Will, 4-2 team against a 3-3 team that's bouncing back after being 2-3, losing to Bob. Justin with the week, I believe so. Justin's projected more, but I'd seen these matchups right now on this side. Julian Edelman, Calvin Ridley, Philip Lindsay, Michael Gallup. If Gallup's the number one wide receiver and Amari Cooper's out, expect that man to go batshit. Michael Gallup's an impressive player, and Philly can't guard anybody. So it's not going to give him like the Juju Smith-Schuster treatment, and teams will try to shadow him. You can't do that with Philly. Their defense isn't good enough in the secondary. Bills defense could get you 20, 25 points this week. Carson Wentz against Dallas, another good play. Le'Veon Bell against New England. Bell should get a lot more targets this week in the passing game, but surprisingly had like one catch last week. Dalvin Cook against Detroit, a nice bounce back spot after 2 straight weeks of difficult matchups against Philly and Chicago. Robert Woods and another bounce back spot. Adam Thielen against Detroit, a good spot. Zach Ertz against Dallas. Again, such a juicy matchup between these two teams. Kerryon Johnson against Minnesota. Johnson's going to get a lot of volume, though, even though the matchup's not ideal. But still, though, I like it. Rams defense did get a plus right there, and Matt Ryan is prone to throwing. He hasn't thrown an interception in a couple weeks. Is he due for one? I don't like to do that with he's due for one or a team's due for one, because you never know. No one's ever due for something. You just have to exploit the matchups and look deep into them. Matt Ryan is more so a kind of guy to throw a lot of interceptions, and we saw at the beginning of the year. Maybe it happens this time around. Juicy matchup right here. Um, I like it a lot. I like it a lot between Will and Justin. We got an 0-6 team against. This is the shit bowl right here. And it looks like his boy Saquon Barkley, maybe Peyton, finds himself 1/7 of the way to running the table into the playoffs. 0-6 against 11th place, 1-5 Tilton's team. Where is Mike Skowski now? Beautiful name. Phil's boy for Peyton Foot. Kyler Murray's in a good spot against the Giants. Saquon Barkley is in an excellent spot. I'm happy to see him back in a team. That team that I do have him back on is 3-3, and we're facing the McCaffrey team, so he's on bye. Should be really interesting. Derrick Henry against the Chargers. Chargers have looked porous against the run, as we saw even the Steelers showed them up the other night. T.Y. Hilton is in a great spot. Terry McLaurin, we'll have to see how well he plays, but he has been playing lights out as a rookie. Mark Andrews, that's a plug and play right there at tight end. Christian Kirk, hopefully he's healthy. If so, because they've been Deshaun Jackson as well. Deshaun Jackson has had a beautiful history against the Cowboys, and it wouldn't surprise me if you just see one of those 70-yard bombs if he ends up being active for the game. 70-yard bombs to where he just taunts the living fuck out of Cowboys fans in Dallas. Ravens defense, you got to look for another defense. Ravens are no longer the team. This ain't 2001. You got to look for another defense. Mike Nugent, kicker for New England. It's 32nd, but that's just because he has been playing every game as where is my Godskowski now? It's where Mike Nugent is and where he used to be, but we just don't know where he is now. Matt Ryan, he's just going to continue to put up points. I mean, start your Falcons offensive players and believe in their defense. I don't think their defense exists. But I do expect Peyton's team to win this week. Rashard Penny, Mohamed Sanu, Chris Conley. It's very, very short. Stefan Diggs, though, at least. Maybe trade him for a couple pieces or something. Create some depth to the team. Jaguars defense against Cincy. That's interesting. And right there. I think Peyton wins this one. I think sneaky potential for Will to win this one to go to 5-2, but I am going to put money, if I was going to put money on Justin's team this week in that matchup. It is the juicy matchup of the week. That's the alert for juicy matchup. I know, it's a very impressive alert. And right here against Max and Tyler's team, I think Max's team is going to win this week in this matchup to go to 4-3. Cube's going to go to 3-4. I do see a huge discrepancy between comparing the running backs on the Denton Degen side with Chandler's compared to Stevens. Stevens always going to for the most part win the wide receiver face up value, but still, I mean, I think though that Chandler's team is going to win this week in this one to go to 4-3. And season-ending IR might have to just say Volume 3 season SEIR Volume 3 instead of Revenge Tour after this week. Let's see right here. Zoris against. Come on, you. There you go. All right, Zoris against Bob. I think it's pretty easy right here. Just looking at it though, Odell on bye and stuff like that. Bobby's team. I'm just not seeing too much in this matchup between the two. Alshon Jeffrey could have a good game. Sprinkle could be thrown in right there. Thomas might get shut down. We'll have to see. But Bobby should be a landslide right there. And I will just pick my team. I'm going to tell Cooper to switch his damn lineup. Can't be letting the laziness when he has that good of a team. We got to let the best team win, and not let any laziness get in the way. But yeah, that's it right there. Juicy matchup of the week is Justin and Will's matchup. I think Will is the underdog in this one clearly, but at the same time, though, I do expect that he has sneaky potential to win this week, and I like it. I like it quite a bit. As always, y'all, take care. This thing is totally right now been just freezing up right here, but we'll just have to see what the dealio is. Hi. Yay. Let's exit out of there. Come on. We can't exit out of this fucking shit. Come on. All right. There you go. As always, fellas, have a good rest of the week. Have a good rest of the day. And always be grateful for everything that comes to you. Just put a smile on, right? People say that the day becomes easier and your productivity increases if you just put on a smile. Later, y'all. Take care and look forward to just a good rest of the week and whatnot. Later, fellas.